Today you might be able to see we got a little bit of snow here in the Netherlands, and I'm about to go for a walk. I want to continue the series, part 2 of how the heck I got here. I'm going to be talking about how I found community, how I created a sense of community in 2009. It's kind of a different time then. Well, in the process of recording this video, I ran into what I call technical difficulties. So before I get into the story, you're going to be seeing some B-roll here while I introduce myself, because this might be the first time you're coming to Susan's Little Cup of Magic channel. My name is Susan de Vriend. I'm an American who moved to the Netherlands 16 years ago. I'm also a Holy Fire Reiki Master Healer and a certified professional coactive coach. And I like to say I'm an intuitive coach because I use my psychic and intuitive abilities to support clients who are like me, who want to run a business in the wellness industry, such as healing and coaching, and who want to feel more like themselves doing it. I do this through one-on-one coaching. If you want to know more about me, you can follow me on my Substack, which will be found in the description below. Now let's get into the story. Last episode, I told you exactly how I got here. Through a partnership, or we like to call it love pat, meaning we're a love expatriate. I had arrived back in Holland in August 2009. The paperwork was still going. Again, being American, I'm allowed to be here for 3 months on my passport alone. Now, in my case, I had to wait up to 6 months before I would get the equivalent of a green card, which means I couldn't work until I got that lovely little card, which comes with its own citizen number. Some of those things can create a lot of anxiety and frustration. When you start any place, when you move to any place in the world, the first thing you want to do is feel grounded or rooted in where you are. So not having a job means you don't really have a sense of community. There's nothing connecting you to the place that you are now living. And so there's a lot of trying to fill up your time. I started a blog at one point. I had to find my own way to fill up my day. And in the beginning, it was kind of tough. And then I realized, well, I needed to meet people, socialize. So this is a time that's perfect to start looking at, well, what would you like to do? You have all this time, right? I would like to learn the language was one of them, and I was looking into how to do that. I've always loved writing. I did a post recently about this. Since I was a little girl, when I got my very first diary, I always loved processing feelings and thoughts and observations through journaling, which is why I started the blog in the first place. I wanted to tell other people what it was like living abroad. There used to be this month-long competition to write a book called NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month. This was every November, a 30-day challenge. You start on November 1st and you obviously end on November 30th, writing a book which is minimum 50,000 words. It always sounded really exciting to me. Back at home, I had a friend who knew the people who started this organization, and it is worldwide. So I started looking into chapters in the town that I live in. And lo and behold, I found one. So some things I want to talk about here as I'm telling this story is a few key things, one of which I brought up at the end of the last video. And that is living abroad really calls upon this particular character trait. and there's a few others, but this one's big, and that's resiliency. It takes a lot of bounce back ability to get back up and navigate through a country that the culture is different than obviously where I'm from, but also to understand everybody because it's a different language. And another thing that I want to talk about here is being open and courageous. You have to be open to new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, and to be courageous to initiate new things in your life. And this brings me to the point of when I started looking to build community. So I started with something I wanted to do to begin with. Like I said, I wanted to do this challenge. When I received the email from the coordinator, I was really delighted to see that she wrote both in Dutch and English, because otherwise I don't know if I could have gone. My Dutch was very minimal at the time. But I did it. I got on my bike that I'm getting better and better riding through busy city streets and went there completely by myself. My partner stayed at home. I found the place. It's a bar that they had it at, and I was looking around for a sign, and no one really was there. There was a few people in one section, so I just went up to the bartender and tried to ask, but wasn't really successful. So the bartender spoke in kind of broken English, and then he knew what I meant, and he pointed to the few people who were putting together tables. I wasn't quite ready to go, so I ordered a beer and sat a ways just to have the beer to get my courage up, right? Because I was about to interact with people I'd never met before, which wasn't a problem for me normally, but it's the Dutch part that was making me nervous. Eventually, enough people came in and they were talking and hugging, and so I thought, okay, maybe it's a good time for me to come over. So a good 10 of them were there, and they were all sitting in this big square table. And I came up and I said the only thing I knew at the time, and I had practiced it while I had my beer. And I went up and they kind of stopped talking, but not really. And then I said, kind of with a louder voice, "Hoi, ik ben Susan." And I was super proud of myself because I was saying it right, I think. And they all stopped talking and they looked up at me with like, kind of look. They didn't even engage or say hi. They just turned right back and started talking to each other. It was like one of those moments where you come into the room and everybody, the record scratches and everybody stops doing whatever they're doing. It's just that kind of awkwardness. I did feel like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake, right? Like I shouldn't be here. And yet in that moment when everybody stopped talking and the record scratched, whatever, a woman who was sitting down said, "Here, come sit here next to me." And I sat down and I just felt really uncomfortable. And that's the thing. There's always going to be one person that bails you out. It's, Mr. Rogers' famous saying, look for the helpers. And in this case, she was helping me out of a very awkward and uncomfortable situation. The thing that I would come to learn many years later is that, and this seems very apparent, but when not all people, but in the Dutch culture, it's unfamiliar. When it's unfamiliar and somebody they don't know how to engage. It's not a part of their culture to be connecting with somebody they don't know. They have to be introduced in a certain way. Americans, on the other hand, are raised to be more outspoken and more extroverted and engaging. I'm not saying that works for all of us Americans, but that's a huge difference in how we interact. as you live in another country, you see more and more how your cultural standards get obliterated when you live somewhere else. And of course it would. But my helper, Crystal, who I'll never forget her name because of this, she explained to me on a bigger level what might be going on. She's like, don't mind them. They know each other for the last couple of years, and you are a new face. But not only that, you are the very first foreigner who's ever done this. So a lot of people didn't know how to talk to you. Throughout the night, the kickoff was amazing. They had, there's a little delicacy here during the Christmas season that the Dutch have, where they're chocolate letters and you get your letter usually. It's around the Sinterklaasdag. I'll put information about what that is. It's a different Christmas type of story, but it was around that time. So they brought chocolate letters, they brought paper noches, which are these little spice cookies. And by the end of that night, I made some real nice, good friends. A few of them were asking me questions about English and telling me that the majority of them were writing their novels in English. From there, I would go to write-ins and meet more people. And there was a core group of people that I met that would carry me through the next coming years. Being courageous, open-minded, resilient, adventurous, and motivated are some key traits that helped me navigate some of these difficult challenges. And they are the ones that I still lean on to this day. So that's a little bit about how I started to create community. And over the years, it changed and morphed into different communities as I became a wife and a mother. I would love to hear from you. If you are living abroad, let me know below what country, if you're here or not, if you're considering moving, or any of these things, or what's your key takeaway. I love telling these kind of stories and showing you and shining a light on how maybe you already have what it takes, not just to move to another country, but making any kind of life change or career change. These type of traits are essential. Anyway, drop down below, let me know what your key takeaway is, and I will be back next week with another part in this series of how the heck I got here. And if you want to know more about me and my work, you can subscribe to my Substack publication. I give away a free course and a few other things to help you with where you're at in life. And I'm also starting to write a book. That's my goal for this year, speaking of writing. So I'll be talking a lot about that book, and my goal is to publish it by the end of the year. So follow along. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube. I'm always coming here every Friday. From my cup to yours. Until next time.